I'm going to talk about the last frontier. Last frontier is actually the Northeast. And why do I call it the last frontier? It's because, especially lately, we've been seeing a lot about the misgivings, the misconceptions, the misunderstandings that are there about the Northeast. And I think there is a real need to conquer this last frontier and make it a part of India. In my old my old job as a Minister of Tourism, I'd gone to Hong Kong, and while I was there at the tourism mart, I was talking to the Cox and Kings people, and they said, yes, sir, we would like to come to your part of the country, and we'd like to do a package tour that would allow us to see the one-horn rhino, allow us to see the gompas, allow us to see the wettest place on earth, and allow us to see the tribes of Nagaland. Now, it was very difficult for me to tell them that, actually, Northeast are these little identities. There are 7 states, 8 with Sikkim, and they don't work together. So putting together a package tour to see all these places would be very difficult. And while the rest of the world and the rest of the country sees the Northeast as one entity, here we have a myriad of people, and we have more than 400 tribes, each tribe speaking their own language, having their own dress code, having their own cuisines, and they can't come together to work with each other. And the worst thing is that the rest of the country, and especially the policymakers in Delhi, they perceive this place as only this buffer zone that will keep us safe from China. And that's the sad part, because in this buffer zone, there are people who are living here, people who have a lot of needs, a lot of wants, a lot of dreams. And in the 67 years since we had our independence, there's still a lot of alienation being felt by the people from the Northeast, and there's still a lot of perhaps a mindset that does not allow the rest of the country to actually embrace the Northeast and make it one with the rest of the country. Now, unfortunately, the gap keeps on widening, because even within the region, we have politicians who are willing to actually widen the gap just because it gives them more mileage, more political mileage. This makes the situation worse and worse. The reason this alienation started, maybe it started with what happened when we were under the rule of the British. At that point of time, there was no direct administration of most of the hill tribes here. They were administered through the chieftains, who administered according to each tribe's own customs, each tribe's own traditions. And what happened was, it very effectively left out the judicial system, the administration system that was being practiced in the rest of the country from this region. So we never knew what administration was going on in the rest of the country, what was the judicial system in the rest of the country, because we were doing everything according to our own individual tribal laws and tribal customs and light tribal traditions. Even within the region, it was different from one tribe to the next. What actually this did was, it created a lot of suspicion, especially when the hill people met people from the plains. Because of this lack of interaction, suspicions grew. And what made it worse was the very solution that we seem to be looking for, the ILP, Inner Line Permit, or the Bengal Eastern Frontier Regulation of 1873, which did not allow citizens of the rest of the country to come into some of the hill areas here in the northeast. And what happened was, the suspicion was there, and then aggravating the situation, post-independence, we were cut off from our natural markets, because 98% of our boundary here in the northeastern region is with foreign countries. And these foreign countries, at some point of time or the other, were not having good relationships with Delhi, be it Myanmar, be it Bangladesh. So we lost our natural markets. This loss of the natural market sent the rural economy of this area spiraling downwards, aggravating the situation. And what happened was, because of the poor rural economy, there was a lot of migration from rural to urban areas, especially by the youth who were looking for job opportunities. And when they came to the urban areas, they found that these job opportunities were not there, and it just heightened the frustration that was there. This frustration then got expressed in sometimes very, very self-destructive ways: drugs, alcohol abuse, militancy, and all this added to the situation where today we desperately need something to bridge this gap and to allow our people to stand up for themselves. I think between 1950 and today, lakhs of crores of rupees has been spent by Delhi in the northeast. But where was it spent? It was spent all on security. If this would have been used to develop infrastructure, I think today we'd be better off than Switzerland or any of these big countries. But unfortunately, it was spent mostly on security reasons. Now, I personally feel that the one door that we have that could allow the Northeast to actually embrace and understand the rest of the country by a constant interaction, and also allow the economic activity in the region to go up, is tourism. This is the answer that is there for us. Because we don't have natural markets any longer, we cannot take our products and sell it outside. Why don't we bring the markets to us so that we can sell our products here? And that's why I personally feel that tourism is the best answer that we have for the region. But I would say not the conventional tourism that we have, because the conventional tourism is very intrusive and is more destructive, and it does not sustain over a long term. So I feel the answer today is ecotourism. Ecotourism, according to the International Ecotourism Society, is responsible travel to natural areas that conserve the environment and improves the well-being of the local people. It's not about bringing money from somewhere else and setting a 5-star hotel and making everybody employees, because we'll get back into that same trap that we're already in. 97% of our people here are government servants. That's why when somebody calls a bund, everybody agrees, mainly not because they support the cause, but because they get a paid holiday. That's why bunds are so successful here in the Northeast. Now, what does responsible tourism do? What does ecotourism do? First and foremost, it preserves the culture of the place. The second thing is, it gives economic opportunity to the community to grow. Then it talks about environmental protection, energy efficiency, and it talks about recycling and the conservation of water. All these are very, very important if the world that we've inherited is to sustain for the generations that are to come. Now, ecotourism has 4 main factors. The first is that the community comes first. Here we talk about whatever interventions, whatever projects that are coming up, the community has to take ownership of it. You have to allow the community to take ownership of it. What happens? Right from the planning stage, you involve them. You allow them to either to put in capital, even if they don't have money, they can give it in the land, they can give in the raw materials, stones, wood, whatever They can even put in their labor, and that can be taken as their contribution to the project. That way they take ownership of it. Once they take ownership of it, then you find that the first thing is the project sustains so that less impact is made on the environment around the tourism spots. The third thing is we have to ensure that there is good management of water. There's recycling of water, and water scarce. Water is the water is used optimally at all times. Wastage is actually minimized. Rainwater harvesting is encouraged, and grey water recycling is encouraged. So, and the fourth one is that we encourage good garbage disposal systems, solid waste systems. Littering is reduced. And with these, what happens is, the first thing is you have energy which comes from renewable sources, which does not in any way impact the environment. You have water which is being recycled, because I do believe, and everybody does say, that the next war will be when we start fighting over water. And then we have the community taking charge of everything. So all the projects that are related with tourism are able to sustain for themselves. Now, what are the effects of ecotourism? The first thing is you have a ripple effect which benefits not only those units that are running tourism projects, but you have youth who are skilled, getting employment either as drivers or as tour guides, as safety experts. Then you have a lot of people being self-employed because they can take up, entrepreneurships, initiatives that will help the tourism industry. You have homestays coming up. Then you encourage the youth to come together, and you have culture being preserved. You have dance troupes, drama troupes, giving plays about local legends. You have handloom and handicrafts being sold to tourists who come from outside. You encourage people to take up livestock farming. You take up gardening to feed the tourists who come in. Small businesses start coming up. And what happens is, because there is this interaction between people from outside and the local people, social integration starts coming into the region. And because people are integrating, they're meeting each other, talking to each other, immediately what happens is suspicion levels comes down. Once suspicion levels come down, then we will be able to work together as a country. And the benefit is not only for rural areas, although yes, we will start off with rural areas, but definitely rural circuits will start off through urban hubs where tourists are pushed to the rural circuits, and from the rural circuits to regional circuits. Because although the states do not work together, what happens is, because it's all in the private sector, private people can work together, and it integrates the whole territory as a whole, and package tours become a reality. Now, before I end off, there's one more aspect that I feel that we have to introduce, and that is inclusive tourism, where we need just a little extra thought process during the planning stage. Can we think about disabled people? Can we think about old people? Make the light switch a little lower so that somebody who's sitting down on a wheelchair can switch it on. Make the bathroom door a little wider so that somebody on a wheelchair can go in. Teach people how to deal with differently able people. Teach guides how to talk to, how to deal with people who are old, and help them to enjoy the experience as much as anybody else. This, I think, is the one way that we can take this dark, bleak situation that we have in the Northeast today, and with you guys from IIM on board, we can take this black and white, scenery, put some color into it, and make the Northeast arrive. Thank you. God bless.